Hello, everyone, and welcome to Please Like What I Like. My name is Joseph Gladding, and with me is my brother Michael. Say hello, Michael.
Hello.
And on Please Like What I Like, it's a podcast where we take turns picking movies, watching them, and then discuss them at one another.
Yeah.
Today's movie is Woody Allen's 1979 classic Manhattan.
I like to think that I do not ask for much. You don't have to sit with me, look at me, we don't have to touch. You don't have to go for a ride on the back of my bike. Please like what I like. Yeah, I picked Manhattan. If you haven't watched it yet, stop listening. Go watch it. So yeah, Manhattan. Chapter 1. Manhattan is an island which no man is. So it makes sense as a foil in contrast to Alan's characters in the film of the same name. No, it's too analytic right off the bat. That's boring. Let me try again. All right. Chapter 1. Manhattan is a movie where the often high caliber of Allen's writing is paired with the best aesthetic qualities of any of his movies, in my opinion. The city is lovingly immortalized in timeless high contrast black and white, and the soundtrack pulsates with the music of George Gershwin. That's too gushy, that's too fawning. All right, Chapter 1. Michael likes Woody Allen movies sometimes. He thinks Manhattan's the best one. Ooga booga. Let's go with that one.
So I, I would agree that this is probably his best movie. I had seen two Woody Allen movies in the past. I saw Annie Hall and Midnight in Paris, and I didn't think much about them at all. And I thought Manhattan was much better than those two.
Yeah, I like both those movies a lot, but yeah, I like Manhattan more. I think it's like the most like aesthetically impressive of his movies, and I think it owes a lot of that to his collaboration partners like Gordon Willis, who he also worked with on Annie Hall, but Annie Hall's still kind of shot like a comedy, except for like the more experimental parts of it. And and generally in comedies, filmmakers tend to worry that like showy angles and stuff will take away from the comedy. But yeah, in Manhattan, it kind of lets the shots do what they may, kind of tries to capture the inherent beauty of the architecture. And you got scenes like the planetarium that leave a big impression on me.
Yeah.
And like with music, like sometimes I like the music that Woody Allen picks. Like in his early comedies, he has a lot of like Dixieland and Ragtime that's really good. But in a lot of his later movies, he's got a real hard on for Cole Porter, who I kind of think is cheesy.
Hmm.
So like yeah, a lot of his music choices tend to be hit or miss, and some of his like 80s and 90s movies I think get too quiet. Like there's not enough music for me. But yeah, this is the best use of music in one of his movies, I think. But it helps that I do enjoy Gershwin a lot.
Do you have anything else to say about the music?
Well, like Rhapsody in Blue, I think one of the
Hmm.
best compositions ever. And the particular performance of it for the opening shots, the sort of slideshow paired with the Woody Allen's character trying to start his book, just
I
like
thought
it
that
all
whole
comes together really
scene.
well. Uh,
I thought that whole scene was really French New Wavy.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, good stuff. Good architecture porn.
Hmm.
um,
So yeah, the cinematographer is Gordon Willis, who's one of the best to ever do it. He did the Godfather movies,
hmm
and I think he collaborated more with Woody Allen as well. Like you
Yeah.
said, I think he did Annie Hall and a few others that I haven't seen.
hmm
But yeah, it's tremendous cinematography. I thought the bridge scene where they're sitting on the bridge
Yeah,
and
it's
or
the
sitting on the
Queensboro.
Yeah, they're sitting on
bench looking at the bridge.
the bench looking at the bridge.
Yeah,
And
that's in
yeah,
the
like
poster.
the lighting in it is just incredible. I like how
Hmm.
the bridge gets lighter the further into the background it goes, while the foreground is silhouetted. It's harder to photograph than it looks, and it looks incredible. And the whole planetarium scene with the Chiaroscuro lighting is just it was beautiful.
Yeah,
It's beautiful cinematography.
I like how they just keep like coming in and out of the darkness. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think what he's doing with Manhattan, and one of the reasons for the camera work sort of showcasing the locations so well is I think the idea is that we're sort of contrasting New York as like a symbol of achievement, a symbol of like America when it has its act together, making something beautiful, with the mess that every character in this movie is making of their lives. Like, they don't even know what they want, let alone are able to pull themselves together to actually do anything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think the whole theme here is one of contrast between what people sort of think of themselves in terms of uh, like what they can do, what their forefathers have done, like yeah, contrasted with reality, like what we actually do with our lives, to ourselves and to each other.
Hmm.
Like in that way, it's a bit of a depressing movie when you think about it, but since it's Woody Allen, there's a lot of wit to it, so it's still a fun watch, I think.
I definitely think that this movie will not change one's mind about Woody Allen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely. One of the, like, this isn't the only movie he's made that definitely brings to mind allegations that have been made against him.
I think, well, here's the thing. So even if, as they have been said to be false, like they've been investigated to be false, I don't want to say they are false, or I don't want to say that they are
Yeah, me
probably
neither.
true, but I will say that sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, and Woody Allen kind of smells like a campsite at dinner time.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
tend to.
I think that if everything that he has been allocated against him is false, he is still a disgusting individual because he
Yeah,
married his stepdaughter.
yeah.
And now I know that she says that he's never been a father to him, but he doesn't need to be a groomer.
Yeah,
And he knew her since she was a child and married her pretty much as soon as she wasn't a child anymore. And in this movie, there's even a quote, the I don't think 17 is too young, besides she's a bright girl,
hmm,
which he has Emily saying, but he wrote it. And that is exactly the type of thing that groomers say.
yeah.
That, oh, you're a bright girl, oh, you're so bright for your age. And it just doesn't look good for him. I think
Yeah.
it would be like if O.J. Simpson in the 80s, like, before his crime, made a movie about how, like, oh, it's a good thing when somebody commits double homicide for adultery, and
Yeah.
that, oh, it's so good for everybody involved, and oh, it's not that big
Well,
of a deal.
what it if I can make a similar comparison that actually happened,
Mhm.
how about if Louis C.K. made an episode of his TV show that was all about talking to women about his masturbation habits?
See? Yeah.
There you go.
And, like, yeah. So, but so my point to bring that up was that I am sometimes on the case of separating the art from the artist,
Hmm.
and I think that in this case and in a few others, it is kind of impossible. I
Yeah.
feel like he is both the creator and the subject of his art,
Hmm.
and I think that it's kind of there in the art.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that is what he's judging himself for in this, so it doesn't come off like early Fellini or Fassbender, where it's kind of like a art examining oneself inwardly, worried that you might be a piece of shit. It's just like, no, I'm a piece of shit, but
Uh, I disagree with that part. I think that in especially this movie and in a lot of his movies, I think there's a level of self-loathing that comes through in the
Oh,
characters that he writes for himself to play. And
there definitely is. I think he definitely thinks of himself as shallow
yeah.
and he has these qualms with himself,
Hmm.
but it seems like he's very forgiving about the fact that he wants to date a high school.
Yeah, I guess so. But like also I don't think it's that his the way that he treats Tracy in this movie, I don't think it's framed as like a good relationship for either of them, or that he's doing any right by her, whether he sends her off or asks her to stay. Either way,
Yeah,
yeah. And I think the contrast in the way that he treats her and the way that he treats Marie kind of shows that 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 he doesn't have much respect for Tracy. That he is kind of just using her for what he can get out of her, like even down to like
but
the shopping scenes. Like they both have shopping scenes, and when he and Tracy go food shopping, he just vents to her and then asks her to pay. Whereas when he goes to shopping with Marie, he asks about her and then pays for her, even though they're not even dating yet.
yeah, I think like there,
Like I think that's on purpose.
I definitely think there's like the undercurrent of Woody writing Isaac as his flaws, and I
Hmm.
think he considers a lot of these things his flaws, like how I think a really there's like a couple of really telling scenes about how like he is framing himself as like, oh, I think this is bad,
Mm.
not like I think this is something I'm proud of. And there's when Isaac mocks Yale for looking for women with whom he has a lot to say,
Mm.
he like says it like mockingly. He's like, "Why would you want to have a woman that you can have deep discussions with?" And then he can't find a later scene when he's quitting his writing job right
Uh-huh.
before that, and they're watching the skit. I don't know if it's a skit or what it is,
Yeah,
but
I think he's
I think there's like a moment,
working on like an SNL type show.
yeah, where like Isaac couldn't find what's funny about a guy being in love with a catatonic woman because it's exactly what he wants in life.
Mm.
He wants a catatonic woman. He
Okay.
doesn't want someone with whom he can talk to. He doesn't want someone that has their own life going on. He
Mm.
wants. I wrote here. There's a part where he says, "I don't want that thing I like about you to change." When he's talking about not wanting her to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
What he doesn't want to change is that she's inexperienced and
Hmm.
uncomplicated. He doesn't want to
Yeah.
lose an inexperienced and uncomplicated woman. He wants a thing. He doesn't want a
Yeah.
person. And
I
I
think
think he's
yeah.
writing it like he thinks that badly about himself.
Mm.
However, I still think that there's a lot where it's like there's really nothing weird about dating a woman who's still in high school. That's
Mm.
he never makes that a problem. The only problem with her being too young is that it will be awkward when he's older. And like again, I think it's making it about him and not her. He doesn't care that it's not good for her now. He doesn't care that there's a power dynamic problem now. He doesn't care that he can easily control her now. He's just like, oh, you're going to be 30 and I'm going to be 60. That's like one of the worst things he says about the relationship, and that's not the case.
Well, yeah, but I think you're you're taking what the character says as like what the
It's
movie's
written
saying,
by
though.
Woody Allen.
Yeah, I know, but like
He wrote it. He
but the
wrote all
let
these.
me finish. But the character who's saying these things isn't the person we're
But
supposed to
no
think
one
is doing everything
in the
right.
movie, not a single person in the movie says anything negatively about him dating a high school. Someone,
That's
at
true.
most of the people are just like, oh, this is a fine thing. This is good.
Yeah,
I don't think
it
17 is
is.
too young.
It,
Everything in this is forgiving of the age difference, except for that one line.
that's true. Well, I mean, it's true that there's no.
Woody Allen does not think the fact that his character is dating a 17-year-old is cause for a problem. He's just
Okay.
like, oh, it's not going to be permanent. But like that's not the issue either. It just I think it paints him poorly as
Okay.
a writer and a person, not as a character of Isaac.
I okay. I agree with your overall point, I think. I agree that the movie like lacks a concrete like judge of the age difference. And
And like if Woody
what I'm
Allen had
saying,
just like
sorry, what I'm saying is the only part of what you were saying that I was really disagreeing with is the idea that the characters in the movie need to like actually speak a judgment of it for the movie
they
to be
don't
making a judgment of it.
they don't if Woody Allen had lived a normal life free of these conversations.
But I do think that the movie as a whole is saying that Isaac in particular, and to some extent everyone in the movie, that I think the movie itself is judging all of them like the entire time.
I I agree.
So
I'm
like
just saying
I don't think
that
that the
it
fact that none of the characters speak out against something is a sign that the movie's saying it's okay. But I
but the movie
also
is
think
speaking out in favor of it, Michael. It's not that it's not saying anything bad about it. It's that it makes it seem like a perfectly natural thing to every character. It's not like
yeah,
there's one
it
character just
is
going, "Oh, I don't know." It's that there's
yeah,
absolutely no reason for the character of Emily to comment positively on the relationship.
yeah,
If she had said nothing at all, I wouldn't be having this conversation.
yeah,
But
that's
it's the fact that he wrote it for a woman character to say and not like one of the men characters who are kind of floated as being,
yeah.
you know, the movie is definitely kind of more judgmental towards its male characters, which has
Like Marie
it's
kind of jokes about it negatively, like by bringing up Nabokov when she first meets him, and then saying like this.
yeah.
I think this explains the little girl. She says, which I think is inherently judgmental, but like yeah, that's the closest thing the whole movie has, and it's weird that like they can go on dates and stuff without people staring and stuff like that. And yeah, like you said, Emily approving of it is one of the weirdest things in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm like I like movies that are complicated and bring out
Hmm.
complicated topics in non-judgmental ways. I like that. Like I like movies about pieces of shit, and I like movies about all these kinds of things.
Hmm.
I just feel like I said, if you've made up your mind about Woody Allen, this movie is probably going to do more to make you feel negatively against him than positively.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few of his movies that are hard for a lot of people to watch now.
And I know that there are a lot of complicated artists whose work that I enjoy. At one point, we're probably going to do Fassbinder, who it was a terrible tyrant of a human being who ruined the lives of most of the people in his social orbit, including himself.
I didn't know that.
But I feel like he is an important artist,
Yeah, I
and
like
I do
the.
not feel that Woody Allen is an important artist.
Uh,
I feel like he is to 50s and 60s Euro art cinema what Tarantino is to 50s and 60s Euro cult cinema. He just kind of cribs it, brings it to America, and people ooh and ah because they probably haven't seen it before because it only played in art theaters. And I don't think he did anything that they didn't do. I don't think he did anything better than they did. And I think he is unimportant.
I like his writing.
I think he's funny, and I think I do like I wrote down some lines. Like I liked the movie okay.
Yeah.
I think it's good art. I just didn't connect with. But like I like a lot of his like little philosophical things, like the nothing worth knowing can be understood with the mind.
Mm.
I thought that was a good conversation. The talent is luck. I thought that was good. The most important thing in life is courage. I liked some of the things that were said. I liked the way he thinks. The movie did get a few laughs out of me. I think the comedy was okay, but I just don't think it's worth trying to separate the art from the artist over. I think, he should probably fail, but he didn't. He didn't fail. He's one of the most accomplished writer and directors to come out of America at the time, and I just didn't connect.
Okay. Yeah. You sound like you've worked yourself up into being a little upset. Are you are you a little upset? Do you, do you
I'm not
need a minute?
upset. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not upset.
Okay.
It's just like I said, like I feel like at times I am conflicted
Hmm.
about whether or not to admire art of people I don't admire,
Mm.
and I felt like I had no problem with this one.
Okay.
I felt it I didn't connect to it on that level, and what like even if the allegations are false, which they could be because they were, said to be false by investigative, recourse, like it went through the processes and was found to be false. That's fine. He still did something that you can see right now. It happened. He married his stepdaughter, and that's fucking despicable.
Yeah, I don't really follow celebrity news at all, but I've always kind of believed that that he did what he was accused of because I think there are things that he's deep down ashamed of that are coming out in his art, and because I don't think that people make these kind of accusations just to like ruin people's lives or anything because it's a bad time to be in the news talking about bad things that happen to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tend to believe the people that say he did what they say he did.
Yeah, I will say,
But that said, I got into Woody Allen when I was 16 or 17, and at that time I definitely didn't know anything about it. Like it had already, I think that some of the stuff was already out there by that time. I think this was like late 90s, early 2000s. I think that there was already.
yeah, he married Soon Yi in like the
Yeah, it
90s.
was right after his divorce with Mia Farrow, right? Or yeah,
Hmm.
and by the way, that was the other movie that we might have like when I was trying to pick between two movies. The other one was Husbands and Wives, which was made while they were breaking up, and they're both in it.
Hmm.
And that's like a much rawer movie. Yeah, if there's anyone like listening to this that I guess I'll make recommendations at the end in case there is anybody listening that
Yeah.
would want recommendations. But Joe, I will never ask you to watch more Woody Allen. I promise.
Yeah, and it was a short movie, and I honestly checked the time 3 times.
Oh wow.
I thought there was like these moments that I did enjoy,
Hmm.
and I will mention every single performance was great. I liked the music, I liked the cinematography, and I liked a lot of the artistry of it.
Hmm.
But I felt like there was like really long periods of time between the moments I liked, except for the bridge and the planetarium. They were kind of close together, and I really liked both of those moments. But there was just like long stretches where I was just like, this movie's only an hour and a half. How long can it be?
I tend to really enjoy the dialogue in Woody Allen movies. I think he's good at writing characters and conversations. Like nobody ever sounds to me like they're just there to move part of the story along. You know what I mean?
I kind of got a Romare kind of feel from it. Like a lot of the characters are just kind of having his own philosophical internal dialogue out loud while in a beautiful photograph, and I do tend to like that. It just didn't connect. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe it was because the other stuff just skewed my judgment while I was watching it. Maybe it embittered me to it, like kind of pre-colored my enjoyment of it. But I just couldn't get into that movie watching groove with it, which is usually a really easy thing for me to do.
Okay. I had misremembered the end of this movie for like it had been a while between the last time I'd seen it, which I think was the only time I'd seen it, which was like back in my early 20s, I think. I didn't watch this when I had first gotten into Woody Allen movies in high school. That I mostly watched his like early comedies then and Annie Hall.
Hmm.
And like it wasn't until whenever Netflix switched from DVDs to streaming, mostly, is when I started watching his other stuff. But yeah, it's been a while since I'd seen it, but I misremembered the end. I knew that it was him, like, running into the airport. By the way, weird coincidence that we both picked movies this time with Showdown running into an
Yeah.
airport. I knew that that's where it ended, but I had remembered it as Tracy, like, sort of putting her foot down and saying, you broke up with me. I'm going to, what was it, Paris or London or something?
London.
And that's it. But it actually ends with her kind of saying that she's coming back in a year. Yeah, I wondered why. I think it's just because we're not supposed to really believe that there's any future in that relationship. Like, I think that's because, like, Isaac/Woody kind of gives almost a smile directly to the camera at the end. That's kind of like a sad smile, like, we know that's not going to happen after she says that a year's not such a long time or whatever, or 6 months or whatever she says.
I think it's 6 months.
Yeah, and, like, I think that's supposed to clue us in that he doesn't actually believe they're getting back together after she comes back. So I guess that's probably why I remember it that way, but I don't know. I thought it was weird that I was so sure about how it ended, and it wasn't quite how it ended. You ever had something like that?
Yeah, a few times. You slightly misremember something.
Because, like, I definitely don't have the greatest memory, but generally, if I feel sure something happened the way it happened. Yeah. Speaking of Tracy, it's Mariel Hemingway, the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, who's a character in a Woody Allen movie in the future.
Oh, yeah?
In one of the other ones you saw, Midnight in Paris.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, that character becomes real, like in The Purple Rose of Cairo, and then goes back in time and writes some books, and then gives birth to somebody who gives birth to somebody who's in a movie by the same director. Huh? Anyway. Oh, and there's this song. I have no idea what it's called, and I have no idea who sings it. But it plays in supermarkets and convenience stores and such, and it goes like, "I'm gonna marry her anyway," or something. "I'm gonna marry her anyway," and I always pretend that they're saying, "I'm Mariel Hemingway." It's like Mariel Hemingway's getting pulled over and trying to talk her way out of a ticket. "Don't you know I'm Mariel
Hey,
Hemingway?"
I'd let her go.
Anyway.
The age difference in Manhattan is 25 years. Do you know what the real life age difference is between Woody and Soon-Yi?
40.
Oh, you overget. It's 35.
Okay.
It's like exactly 10 more years, like, than the relationship that was weird in the movie he made. That was fiction. The fictionalized version of himself that he aged up to 42, even though he was only 34. He aged himself up to make the relationship even bigger of a gap, and then in real life, it's an even bigger gap.
Yeah.
He can't even write himself as being comically crazier than he is in real life.
Okay.
But I did like it more than I was expecting to. I was not quite looking forward to this watch, and I got a little more out of it than I expected. I wouldn't say I was pleasantly surprised, but I would say that it exceeded expectations.
Okay.
I was really underwhelmed by Annie Hall. I had it's like in the film canon, like it's talked about, it's on lists, blah blah blah. And I watched it and I was like, this movie does nothing for me. And Manhattan at least did something for me.
I like Annie Hall a lot too. It is.
I did watch it when I was like 19, maybe.
It's kind of like a very much a transitional movie for him. It's like halfway between his early comedies and the stuff like this. All right. Should we wrap up Manhattan?
Do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to talk about other Woody Allen movies real quick, and then we can move on if you like.
Sounds good, buddy.
Okay. It's kind of a short one, but yeah, Woody Allen. So if you're not having a bad time like Joe was, and you are interested in watching more Woody Allen,
I'd honestly probably give Purple Rose of Cairo a shot before I die.
I've seen it. I thought it was kind of mid. Purple Roses of Cairo was a little too sweet for me. Do you know the
Hmm.
conceit of that movie?
No, I don't know much about it besides it's
Oh,
another one considered among his best.
okay.
And
It's his. I think it's one of his favorites of his own work.
mhm,
There's a romance in it that I think is too sweet and sappy. The main female lead is, I think, his least the least like developed character I've ever seen from him. She just seems
mhm,
to exist to be fought over and to like movies a lot. And
gotcha.
like basically something big happens in the main story that starts this romance. And like my favorite part of the movie is the other minor characters reacting to the something big that happens. And the parts with the romance that's supposed to be the main story were very dull and
Hmm.
sappy to me. So
Gotcha.
I don't really recommend Purple Rose of Cairo myself, but like Joe said, it's one of his more celebrated movies, so if you're curious, go for it. Let's see. He's got like different phases to his body of work. There's his early comedies before Annie Hall. If you like stuff like Marx Brothers movies and what's the guy who did like Spaceballs and whatnot,
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks. If you if you want something sort of between those two, yeah, his early comedies are pretty funny. I like Take the Money and Run a lot. Love and Death. That one's a parody of Russian literature. It's a good one. I think he also worked with Gordon Willis on that one. It's one of his prettier movies, even though it's a very goofy movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then after Annie Hall and this movie, Manhattan, and the movie, I think either after Manhattan or between those two was Interiors. And that one has like no jokes in it. It's ultra super serious. And I'd say that those like three movies are kind of analogous to like Bob Dylan's Going Electric albums, where it's like a big transition for him and one of his most like creatively interesting periods. After that, he kind of does mostly a mix of sort of like this movie was, where like there's jokes, but they're generally dramatic, so like dramedy type movies. Once in a while, he'll do a straightforward comedy after that, like after those three movies. But mostly his movies tend to be a mix of drama and comedy in like the 80s and 90s. And I think there's some really good movies in there. There's Husbands and Wives I brought up. In the late 90s, there's this movie he did called Deconstructing Harry. That's most people tend to interpret it as a version of himself again, but I think I've heard it's based on another writer, Philip Roth. I don't know, but that's a good one. Deconstructing Harry. It's similar to Annie Hall in that it's like sort of a loose reality in that movie where there's a lot of like sort of weird reality breaking moments in it. It's fun. So I'd recommend that one if anyone's curious about checking out his more recent stuff. Deconstructing Harry. The other one that Joe watched, Midnight in Paris, I think was fun. If you're interested in like nostalgia, it's a good one. It doesn't have Woody Allen in it. I mean, yeah, I'd just be sort of rambling about other ones that I liked or didn't like at this point. So you got some recommendations there. I think next we're doing Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which is Joe's next pick.
I think if you liked Manhattan, you should check out the work of all the people he ripped off to make Manhattan.
Yeah, I think like while I really like Woody Allen's writing style and his dialogue, I think when his movies are successful beyond that, it tends to be because of the people that he's collaborating with. In this case, Gordon Willis brought a lot to the table, and he's worked with the same casting.
The acting is all great.
Yeah, he's worked with the same like casting woman for like his whole career, and the casting is always really good. We're like everybody tends to be right for their role in these movies.
Yeah, like I wish Meryl Streep was in it more. She was terrific as the ex-wife.
Yeah, and like the guy who plays Fezziwig in Princess Bride that shows up for one scene.
Oh, Wallace
yeah.
Shawn.
He's in a few of his movies,
He
but
to,
he's
to play like the mirror
Yeah.
of Isaac, to be like, oh, that's why you think
Yeah.
I'm attractive.
Yeah, that's a good gag. So I will end it there. Any last things you want to get in on this one?
Not really. I had my little rant about why I think even if he's innocent of the crime he committed, he is still guilty of being an awful man. And this movie didn't help me with that image.
Yeah, it's not going to.
Yeah. But otherwise, it was fine. It was a fine movie. If you like Woody Allen, you'll like this movie. Yeah, the next movie is Pedro Almodovar's Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown from 1988. So check it out before coming back to us, and we'll talk about it
Oh,
together.
by the way, I finally had an orgasm, but the doctor told me it was the wrong kind.
Damn.